So I bought a cheap distributor on eBay. I think I paid 58 bucks for this billet, whatever distributor. Actually came in pretty nice. The tolerances look nice. It had a good feel to it. Everything about it looked pretty good. Like I said, it was 58 bucks off of eBay. It's for a small block Mopar, and I just wanted to take it apart, see what I could or could not do with it in terms of running it on one of my engines. And you know, it's just a cheap magnetic trigger. So trigger your MSD box, trigger your Holley sniper unit, whatever you want, trigger your factory Chrysler box. It's just a cheap magnetic distributor. What I like is that it doesn't have vacuum advance. So if you're not into using it vacuum advance, if you're into, like a lot of my projects are boosted, or you're locking out your timing, you know, if you're gonna like let Sniper control, or Holley Terminator X control your timing, and so basically you take it a $400 or $500 MSD distributor and you lock the timing out anyway, so that it doesn't have any advance to it, because you're letting the ECU take over and run your advance. So if you're into something like that, you don't need the vacuum housing. Anyhow, I took it apart, and unlike most distributors, when you pull the cap and your weights and your springs, you know, a lot of stuff is visible. This stuff is on this distributor, hides underneath this plate, so all you see is the magnetic pickup and the reluctor wheel, and you don't see the guts of it. But by pulling it apart, and it comes apart fairly easy, you can get into the guts of it. Okay, and you can see the two springs and the weights. Now what I found interesting is looking at it. Right now, only this little spring here works. So when you open it up with the weights, let me see if I can put this in a good spot. Well, I can't work it, but anyhow, so when you open this up with the weights, only the one spring is working. The other one is slotted here, and it never does anything. The other thing I noticed is this slot here looks to be wider than this slot here for the advance. So here's your limiter, right? If you want more advance out of it, you grind this edge down, because that limits your advance against that bushing. And so by grinding that down, you would have more advance. But what I realized is this one here is a wider slot. So what you could do is you could take off that plate and you can spin it around 180 and have your stop here over here on this slot. So that in effect would also give you more timing, more advance. And I think it's the same deal with the spring. I think when you get into the wider slot, you need a longer spring, and so now this spring becomes the spring that's used, and that allows, so you know, basically what I'm saying is I think you can 180 this plate and change your advance, your degrees of advance by simply installing this plate the opposite direction. Anyhow, you know, the $400 or $500 distributors out there nowadays, and sometimes you just need a cheap magnetic trigger, and for 58 bucks, I think this will work all right. So I'll play around with what other springs, maybe from MSD. I'll take apart some of my MSDs, and I'll see if the springs are the same length.